By far, the two niche communities in gaming that are my favorite are the roguelike communities and the speedrunning communities. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you'll know that I love Enter the Gungeon speedrunning, which fits into both of these categories. Recently, one of my viewers sent me a message saying, "Hey, you should try this game called the Crackpet Show. It's kinda like Gungeon." Now, I'm not one to just ignore recommendations like this. I wanted to see what the game was like, so the first thing I did was search it up on Twitch. What I didn't expect was for the game to have 0 streamers. Not a single person on the entirety of Twitch.tv had decided to play this game, which was pretty crazy to me. So the next thing I decided to do was look up the game on speedrun.com, and once again, I got no results. Not a single person had run this game. There wasn't even a page detailing how a potential speedrun would work for the game. At this point, I knew I had found something especially niche, to the point where I can't even call it niche anymore. This game had no community circling it, nobody streaming it, nothing besides a few stray YouTube videos. So naturally, I had to try this game out in an effort to answer 2 questions. 1, does this game hold any sort of candle to Gungeon? And 2, would a potential speedrun for this game be any fun? So without any further ado, here's what I found in this crazy fever dream of a game called the Crackpet Show. And hey, while we're here, why don't we circle back a little bit? If you're fond of the speedrunning and roguelike communities as well, why don't you consider subscribing? I try my best to deliver somewhat consistent content revolving around roguelikes and the speedruns surrounding them, so if you enjoyed this content, there's more to come. Hell, I even speedrun the games myself on Twitch. Recently, I did a stream playing non-stop Dead Cells for over 3 days straight, and if you wanted to join us for the next big event, the link to my Twitch is in the description. Anyways, back to the main topic. Playing this game on stream, I didn't want to completely trash talk the game into oblivion. I think all indie games deserve some form of empathy, and if they show any signs of effort, they deserve a little bit of my respect. However, this game honestly looked like an Xbox 360 game I would get at GameStop for $3. From the early access, I'm gonna say like maybe this is like a 4 out of 10 game. It's just some random game that kind of exists, and I couldn't tell if it was for mature audiences or kids. It had sort of an Adult Swim kind of vibe to it, but without the depth and just the characters. I mean, I can't see me and my group of buddies playing this game unironically, but I also can't see a parent letting their 12-year-old kid play this game either. I don't know, I just couldn't pin down the demographic. That being said, it was kind of goofy, and I can see it fitting a certain audience. The gameplay was very similar to Gungeon in the camera angle and the concept, but the one major difference was that, instead of focusing on both aiming and dodging, you only need to focus on dodging, as all the weapons auto-aim for the player. The game compensates for this by drastically decreasing the weapon's capabilities in comparison to the insanely chaotic blasters of Gungeon, but in doing so, minimizes the feeling of power a player gets from having fast-firing and powerful weapons. That being said, the game was still challenging and I didn't find myself just breezing through the levels, so it had that going for it. I just didn't feel the same sort of chaotic energy that Gungeon makes me feel, but after playing through the first part of the game, I found out why. Going into the lobby, there are immediately options for adding more players into the game, and that's when I realized that the core difference between Gungeon and this game was that Gungeon aimed to be taken somewhat seriously in an effort to reward players for putting a lot of time and effort into the game by themselves, while Crackpet Show aimed to give players a much more casual experience and wanted players to get joy not from constantly failing and learning, but rather breezing through the levels with their friends without requiring players to put an overwhelming amount of seriousness into the game. You're not supposed to play this game by yourself, because the real joy of the game is intended to be the friends you made along the way. This is further supported by the fact that there are methods of improving your character, weapons, and items using coins you gather from simply playing the game and trophies you gather by beating bosses. This is a common way for roguelikes to give players a little bit of objective progression. Sometimes it's not too fun to just rely on muscle memory and game knowledge to improve throughout the game, as the player has to create intrinsic checkpoints for their improvement. In other words, a player has to be able to tell themselves, "I'm making progress in this game," rather than have the game do that for them. Crackpet Show realizes this and gives players these coins and trophies so that they can point at their stats and say, "Hey, look how much I've accomplished." The only problem with this system is that you can grind through previous levels indefinitely to gain a bunch of trophies and coins without ever having to move forward to the later levels. I can just sit in the starting area until all my stats are maxed out, then move forward to the harder levels with the upgrades that would normally be reserved for the end of the game. However, for a game meant to be mostly casual, this works great because me and my friends don't have to get angry at the game for constantly killing us off. We can just get overpowered and never lose at the game. When a game is casual, it's meant to be easy like this. This is much less of a problem for me, but I also felt like the art and the UI was just a little bit low quality. I'm no game critic, and I have no real sense of creativity beyond YouTube videos and Twitch streams, but I just got some sort of unexplainable feeling that the game didn't feel as aesthetically pleasing as Gungeon or some of the other games I've played recently. Once again, I just felt like this game was a decade late and would have thrived on the Xbox 360. So to answer our first question, no, this game doesn't really hold a candle to Enter the Gungeon. I have to give it the benefit of the doubt because it's still in early access, but at face value this game is just not as fun, and I couldn't see it holding a candle to really any roguelike that has been published in the last few years. But of course, we still have to move on to question 2, which is, could this game be speedrun and optimized in a unique and interesting way? Well, I made this video because I have a lack of content and I needed to talk about something on this channel, but I also made this video because, yeah, I think in theory this game could be speedrun. Circling back to what I said earlier, the game allows you to go back and play previous levels to grind up trophies and coins. As a matter of fact, I think the game expects you to do this because it wants you to breeze through its levels and have plenty of time to prepare. However, if you choose not to do this and work with only the materials you get from beating each level in the game once, you suddenly have to plan out your upgrade paths and root for some lucky rolls when upgrading items. I didn't mention this earlier, but there is a lot of luck when it comes to upgrading items and weapons, as the game chooses 2 weapons and/or items and allows you to choose one of those to be upgraded. Ideally, the weapon you would be presented with most often would be the ones that are the strongest or fastest for a speedrun. Also, simply finding these weapons as you progress through the stages within each level would also require a handful of RNG, as the game is not guaranteed to drop the exact things you want it to give you. For a lot of speedrunners, the inconsistency and tons of RNG is an absolute nightmare, and I don't blame you for feeling this way. No amount of skill can really get you through RNG-dense games, as you can't control the fact that some game seeds are faster than others. However, for some runners and some viewers, this luck is just what they're looking for. A lot of why I really like roguelike speedrunning is because of the dense amount of RNG in roguelike games. This RNG can spawn legendary runs, like Napalm's 7-minute and 1-second world record we talked about previously on this channel. Getting 1 in a million odds while speedrunning is super hype, and the communities revolving around these games will often celebrate these rare occurrences like holidays. RNG isn't always a bad thing in speedrunning, it just changes what it means to be good at a speedrun. For Crackpet Show, I think the speedruns of this game would be very similar to Gungeon, even if the base games are very different. I still don't think the speedruns would even be close to matching the speedrunning community of Gungeon, but I still think it could hold some competition if the game was popular. That being said, this isn't me saying I think the game deserves to be popular or anything. This video is just me blatantly saying this game exists. And for any game that exists, I always have to wonder what a speedrun for the game would look like. Who knows? Maybe in a few months, we'll come back to this game and someone will have pushed this game to a point none of us could have predicted. Only time will tell. Next up on my list of future videos is going to be a video talking about Dead Cells speedrunning. If that's something you want to see, be sure to subscribe and like this video. Also, if you have a random game you want me to look at, join my Discord server in the description or comment on this video. Hopefully I won't take another 2 months to come out with a new video, and I have to thank you all for your patience. That's all for me. Thanks for watching, everyone.